107 participants in the room. Beautiful. So thank you again, Ben. I think we're gonna have a chance to do a bit of Q&A, but I also just found out that Josh is gonna have to shoot off in the next 10 minutes. So we wanted to maximize your time, Josh, on this call, and maybe we'll direct some of the questions that came up over the next 10 minutes to you, kind of put you in the hot seat, and then we'll bring together all the other panelists for the rest of the Q&A. Does that sound all right?
Sounds good.
Sweet. Okay. So I know there are quite a few questions that came through. So we've been recording these, and I think we can draw from them. One of the questions that came up, Josh, is how do you know if your team culture is on the right track? How do you have an accurate measurement of indicators that, hey, your team, the health of your team isn't doing so well? And what systems need to be built in place to help identify those things as you're building culture?
I think Josh might have left early. I cannot find him in the participants. Yeah. So
no, actually, Josh called. He got lost in the bathroom. He might be coming back late.
Okay.
I was trying to. Okay, but you found him in the hallway.
Yeah, crying.
Oh no. Okay. Well, Aim, how about as our welfare officer, can you make sure he's doing okay? Let us know when he's back in the room with us.
Okay.
Cool. And in the meantime,
give him a donut.
Definitely give him a donut. He deserves a donut for that session.
So, I mean, since there were a lot of good questions towards the Josh, we'll try to summarize that and then hand over to him and then ask him if he's willing to come back to us with a question. We tried to get him as an expert, and so you will have a chance to actually arrange a setting office hour with him if it's possible. I will keep you guys updated. Thank you so much for lovely questions. I think we can move on to the Q&A with the rest of the speakers.
Yeah, and I'm seeing actually some great ones come in here as well for Ben. And since we just had Ben's session, maybe let's zoom in on those, if that's all right. So Ben, we have a couple of questions here around what live chat you use in a more technical sense. And then following that, could you also answer the questions around strain to run a lean team and the need to scale?
Yeah. So I use Intercom. I've tried pretty much everything under the sun in the last like 8 years, and Intercom still absolutely kicks ass across the board. When it comes to the strain of running a lean team, so that really comes down to it can be as hard as you kind of make it. By default, I don't scale things until things break. I take that pretty much every aspect of my life, which is for better or worse. But when it comes to products, particularly, like until it's absolutely at the edge where you need to scale it, I don't even think about that. So you notice like the most amount of scaling on this one I've done is I put in like 3 times the amount of servers as I need. Once this thing can run on one server for $25 a month, easy, absolutely easily. So yeah, I mean, there's so many things I could do to optimize it and make it really real time and lots of things, but no, just keep it really light. So that's from a product perspective. From a team perspective, I try and just kind of effectively try and do as many tasks per day as I'm happy with, and I prioritize whatever I think is important. And then anything that I don't get done just doesn't get done. Sometimes that means getting back to a customer and be like, hey, I didn't get this done in time. I'll get it to you in 3 days. But effectively kind of going at a pace where I'm not going to burn out, that's absolutely critical. In terms of like what you have to do, there's like 27 different things. I just take it day by day. I literally have Post-its where I just write down my day and then I scrap them at the end of the day.
And what advice, maybe one last question before I jump to the next speaker, but what are some tips for non-technical founders when approaching product development? How would you have a background, a developer background, which helps you look at this bigger picture. What tips and advice would you give to non-technical founders starting their own product?
Yeah, so I guess the first piece of advice, and this may sound biased, but I believe it's incredibly true, is you should learn to code. That doesn't mean you have to be a good programmer, but you should absolutely learn some like really basics. Just learn some basics so you can actually have informed discussions with developers, and you know kind of how much things will cost and how long things will take. And really, 3-4 months of part-time effort will get you there to a point where you can be dangerous. From the other from a non-technical perspective, from another perspective, I would recommend trying to use automation where possible, like Zapier or IFTTT. Try and like use these no-code solutions that merge products together to build like functional prototypes that you can charge for. My product, pretty much every product I've ever built, could have been done using some sort of like MVP version using Zapier and Google Form integrations and a Stripe integration and a Typeform integration for sure. And then beyond that, there's you can hire some pretty good developers from Vietnam. I have a team in Vietnam to do other stuff when I don't have time. So if you need some help with that, I can introduce you to some people.
Awesome. Thanks, Ben. And then I think there's one last question that looks pretty juicy here that I wanted to highlight. Could you talk a little bit about your pricing strategy? How did you come to a price that you're comfortable with for a certain product? How do you get to that point?
Yeah, so pricing's kind of weird. Like, I've never really understood it, to be perfectly honest. I kind of see it as an art form. No matter how much science I throw at it, I never get it right. So where I kind of start is like between two kind of pillars, effectively, like what is the competition charging, and what can I get away with that will get me somewhere between 100% and 200% margin. And then and that's kind of how I do it. There are some key kind of things that you can find out from your customers pretty early on. Is subscription going to be like a major barrier? Right now, everyone's locking down on subscriptions hard from a company perspective. Whether it's $20 a month or whatever, it's so much easier to approve, like get internal approval for a business sale of $100 or $1,000 that is like a one-time fee. So it kind of depends on the culture and the mentality of the business or the consumer that you're selling into. It definitely taken into account when you're allowed. But to be honest, just test the market. Like I put it out at like the first pricing was until the 1st of September, and then I changed it to 12 months, and then I changed it to 6 months, and you just get a sense of how the customers are feeling about it pretty quickly. Test lots.
Test, and it's a bit of an art, yeah.
Yeah.
Not exactly.
Just go with your gut. Go with your gut and just play with it.
And if all else fails, ask Ben. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I can roll the dice for you.
That's good. I think flexing, getting used to like responding to our instinct and our gut is really important. And I think it's an important muscle for us to continue to return to. But thanks so much. That was really helpful. I did want to jump over to some questions that were shared earlier. I think some of these are for you, Uni. If you can also share. Can you give an example of a previous investment? What kind of stage of company investment and how much equity in exchange? The Impact Collective, sort of around the Impact Collective framing?
Yeah, actually, I briefly prepared the slide so that I can see examples. Sorry.
No worries. Feel free to share screen when you're ready.
Yeah. These are our previous some of our previous portfolio. So as you can see, the sectors are very, wide open. So we are not focusing a single vertical. So, for example, we care as a Vietnamese online community in e-commerce for moms. So this is like, a full community for baby caring and nurturing, also the pregnancy wisdom sharing as well. And John Parking is our Malaysian portfolio, and they're building this mobile-first parking solutions and services. So this is more like, urban solutions to solve the mobility issues. So they're right now expanding their market towards Thailand and Indonesia as well. Also, AHA Rooms. This is also a Vietnamese startup, and it's kind of like a, repackaging the hotel rooms, like economic hotel rooms, to meet premium level of services. So they enhances the economics behind this, 1, 2, 3 stars hotels. So this is more focusing on the economic growth. And the Chop is the #1 online grocery delivery service in Vietnam. So they're also solving the urban solutions and also supporting the farmers with the better economics as well. And Citix is another Vietnamese startup related to property tech. And Douyin is e-commerce for street fashion brand as well. So as you can see, we focus a lot of, we do not focus on a single sector, but we cover all of the, urban solution to agriculture and healthcare and energy, all these like 6 sectors that 6 themes that we set for Impact Collective. And also, if you want to get to know more about our previous portfolios, then you can visit our website. Here at the ventures, if you go to the portfolio tab, then we already, listed almost every portfolios that we have. So you can look into the different sectors and what kind of business that we support, and we link the names with their existing service if it's available. So yeah, you can go check. And another question was about the check size and the type of equity deals, I think. Well, that actually depending on the valuation of the teams. So we usually comfortably invested in around 100K to 300K level mostly, but the Impact Collective investment is open to 50K to 500K USD investment size. So the check size will be within that range. According to the stage and the valuation, we will negotiate the portion, how much of the share that we can get. But typically it's pretty, pretty minor percentage you can think about. So it can be from 1% to up to 10%, I think. Yeah, so that was the range that we usually have. And the type, the equity investment type was like the terms were all different too. So some early stage teams, we invested in SAFE and KISS. And for some later stages, we invested in ICPS type. So, all this kind of like investment term will also be decided when we negotiate together. Like according to your previous round and previous like existing investors' preferences, the term will be renegotiated as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Uni. And if there are any additional questions or clarifications, you can also reach Uni on the ICC platform. So don't hesitate to ask any questions, any follow-on questions from there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks so much. And I think we rescued Josh from the hallway, the conference hallway, and he's back. Good to have you back. We did have a question actually lined up for you that we're just about to ask. So one of the questions that came up was, as you're building team culture, how do you actually know you're on the right track towards healthy culture? Are there red flags where you might need to respond and, be able to identify, hey, things are not going the way they should be and we need to respond? How do we objectively see and assess where your culture is at a point in time?
I think the first one is you need to know what you're aiming for. And that comes down to what do you value in your team? And you need to have a perspective of how that fits into your strategy. So for example, if you started to notice a culture of people being afraid to speak up, that would, you need to notice it, then you need to make an intervention, which is, oh, I think this is happening, talk to your co-founder, people looking after it, what are we going to do about this? If you're noticing a culture of people are scared to take risks, or if you're noticing a culture of people are doing sloppy work, they're just rushing, they're trying to get it out the door but not focusing on the quality, all of those would be things that I'd look at. And for me, a culture is when it's multiple people doing it a little bit independently. In a team of 4, there's nothing like independence. Everyone sort of touches each other in terms of the way things work. But if you're noting patterns, would be something I'd look at. Patterns across people or patterns throughout time. And then forming an opinion of like, oh, I think this might be the case. I would then start to say, is it the case? And I would ask people, do you think we're doing sloppy work? Do you think that people are afraid to speak up? Why do you think that is? What's causing that? And doing stuff like the 5 whys and trying to dig down to the root cause of it. Because interventions can be really small. They can be, oh, just having a one-on-one chat with someone or one-on-one chat with everyone might be one kind of intervention. You can raise stuff at a team meeting. The limit of what you can try is limited only by your creativity. But paying attention, looking for patterns in time and across people would be the short things I do.
Are there any
to notice things going.
Tools that you use, Josh, to help support identifying some of these patterns and not be able to see day to day?
Retrospectives. I think the biggest tool to take from the agile world in tech is frequent inspection of your work and your team. And so if you're in a culture of doing stand-ups of like, okay, everyone, let's touch base each day with what we're doing, or you've got a culture of a fortnightly sprint and let's look back over the last fortnight, what do we like about it, what do we not like, what do we want to change? Seeing things which crop up throughout these times overall, but frequently inspecting and talking about how did we work together and how do we want to work together in the next part would be the one tool I'd lean on over anything else.
Awesome, thank you. And there was also a question, I guess, in light of our current situation. We're working more remote than ever, virtually more than ever, and we're living through a pandemic. So a lot of team culture is being tested in the face of COVID and a lot of pressures on mental health. Would you have any sort of approaches or tips for how, as team leaders, we can better support the mental health and well-being of team and support better culture around mental health and well-being during this time?
Yeah, well, I think one of the things is just being gentler with people than normal. Is that in a time where people are stressed in their lives, I think we need to be more gentle in what we ask from them, which might mean slowing down or might mean asking them to not push as hard, which is often counter to what startups tend to do or need to do. So just realizing, actually, I need to budget in a little bit more contingency time, a little bit more flex. I can't strive for really sharp, really efficient now, because if I do, people's relationships will break because people are just that much more stressed. And even people who seem to be doing okay, who seem to have it together, often, particularly online, it's harder to know how people are really doing. So I would do things like more one-on-one check-ins with people, which is like, hey, how are you doing? Let's just talk about what's going on in your life. Is there anything we can do to make your adaptation to the pandemic easier for you? Maybe it's shifting meeting times, maybe it's sending you some gear, maybe it's paying for more cell phone data, whatever it is. Just how can you help people adapt to the changes, and let them know that you're there to support them, rather than you're on the verge of kicking them out if they don't perform, because the people are already stressed. Would be one-on-one check-ins, more compassion, a bit more flex in the system would be my short answer.
Absolutely. Thanks, Josh. And I'm just going to do a final call for questions, burning questions. If we haven't gotten to it already, please do throw it in the chat, the Zoom chat, because there's a lot of text happening there, so we may have missed it. So do enter in any of your final questions for our lightning speakers in that chat, and we'll get to it. And I guess I have one more that was shared for you, Josh, earlier. And it's really around diversity. We know diversity leads to stronger teams, or that's been part of the narrative, is that more diverse teams leads to stronger teams. But practically, how do we support diverse values and needs in the same team culture? How do we ensure that that's actually a smooth experience and a safe experience for all? Do you have any anecdotes or experiences around this?
Yeah, so I've done a ton of work on just how to create diverse teams. The short version I'd say is that if you're in the innovation business, the more different people have who are innovating their life experiences, the more different they are, the better your innovation will be. And also, the more people who have a lived experience which is similar to your customers, the more on point you'll be. So you want a balance between having people who really understand who are your users, who are your customers, what's their world like, and ideally you want them in your team. But also you want a bunch of people who don't have that experience, who have radically different ones, because they're going to be the people who help you come up with the really novel stuff. And that so that would be the first thing, is it's a balance between the two. Homogeneous teams are easier to manage. You don't need to spend as much time thinking about or understanding what everyone's like, because your assumptions of, oh, they just want what I want, are more often right than not. When you have more diverse teams, you often don't want what I want. You often don't work the same way I do. I need to spend more time listening and asking questions. So the secret to making diverse teams work is to help people learn that listening is a skill. Paying attention to other people's motivations, emotions, habits, patterns is a skill, and to help develop that skill across your team, and just to tune into how to work well together, because people can't just assume that it's going to work the way that they are used to it working. So that would be the short tip on how to work in diversity for me.
Thanks, Josh. Great. And we have a couple more minutes left. So I wanted to just open the floor actually and give space for anyone to unmute themselves and share a question, and directly share it with any of our speakers. Tiffany, you shared something in the chat. Do you want to unmute and share a bit more context?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Josh. It's really super interesting to learn from you. Yeah, so I've worked across a lot of different teams in Africa and Asia, and I grew up biculturally also. And I've noticed that there's just a lot, it's really hard to get people to speak up, especially if you have a younger team, especially if you have a newer team. And we try to encourage our team members to speak up a lot, but I'm just wondering if you have like some magic wand to get everyone to share negative experiences, and so we can discuss about it.
I'd generalize from that and say, how do you get people to do things which are culturally they're unused to? Because people have got, and one of them might be sharing negatives, might be something that I'm just not used to doing. One of them is explicitly naming it. Hey, it's really common to not want to say these kinds of things, but I would really love it if you did. And just explicitly saying this is welcome behavior. And that alone won't do much, but it's the starting point, just so that people are clear of it. The other one would be modeling that behavior myself and getting other leaders to model it too. Saying, hey, could you do, just inviting people to model that behavior so others can see that, oh, someone else did it and it was okay for them. And the third thing I would do would be praising that behavior as soon as I saw it. Thank you so much for speaking up. That was probably hard for you to say, but that, now we all know what's going on for you much better, etc. So naming it explicitly, getting leaders to model it, and praising it and reinforcing it anytime other people do it would be the way I'd seed a cultural initiative. And if it is speaking, saying things which are negative, which you might normally keep to yourself, if that's the example, that might be it.
Thank you.
Could I add a tiny bit to that?
Yeah, of course, Ben.
Like the modeling of your thing really resonates quite strongly with me. So one of my roles, I was the CTO of a $33 million mental health software company. And developers get exposed to all the algorithms to determine how people are suicidal and really quite disastrous stuff. In order to ensure that everyone felt that they had the support that they need, the best way that I found to be able to get everyone comfortable with going to a psychologist was I went to a psychologist, and then I said to all of my team, I would expect you to be capable of going to a psychologist, and I have just put myself through the experience of going through a psychologist, and it was a good experience, and now feel more comfortable when I need a psychologist to be able to go to a psychologist. And through that, the leaders went, and then the entire team went, and then it became a culture that everyone would go. And similarly, if there was like issues within the team that were being discussed, not openly, but amongst some, as soon as the leaders would find out about that, I kind of encouraged them to almost kind of create examples where they explain how, like, if an example was where someone was like going well over budget and they were really uncomfortable and insecure about their ability to do this task. I had one of the kind of leaders was like, okay, I've gone way over budget on this particular task. I'm going to tell everyone because that's really helpful because of X, Y, Z. Here's how I'm going to deal with it, and just publicly do that. The role modeling aspect is just so incredibly powerful, and it doesn't have to happen organically always. You can actually kind of use it to your advantage to really promote what the culture should look like, as opposed to like just expect it to get there. Second, all of Joss's stuff, by the way.
Amazing. Thanks so much.
And I had one.
Yes. I can't see where this is coming. Wait. I can't see everyone's faces on the screen. Oh, there you are. Hi. Hey, Jack.
Hey. Just a fun thing. I love the I'm going to stab you in the face policy. So it's like this fun way. If you have to give someone negative feedback, you prepare them by saying, hey, I'm going to stab you in the face. Okay? All right. And then you're like, you open this kind of really playful way to like share negative feedback without any surprises, because then they know, oh, this is going to be something negative. So it's a fun way that like we're super open, like this is going to suck. This is going to hurt. You ready? Okay, cool. And then you just jump into it. I found that has been like life-changing for our team.
Awesome. Thanks, Jackie. And I saw that you shared some great resources. Radical Candor is a great book specifically around how to communicate feedback in a way that's compassionate but really supportive around performance and getting the best out of one another. Tons of resources being shared around. So I think to close out our Q&A, there were a bunch of questions related to investment piece. So I do want to hand it over to the ventures team to address some of those questions for all of you. Jimmy?
Hi, everyone. It was a really nice session about all of different team culture, product, finance, etc. But we've had some questions regarding investment, and people have been privately messaging me about, some of the details. So I would just like to give you guys this information. We will be posting the FAQs about investment. We've actually discussed a lot about this during our welcome call, not in our first welcome call, but the second one. So if you missed out, we will be posting all of the information there. But basically, we did mention equity investment, but we are open to, and we have done before, some of the other SAFE, KISS, or even the convertible notes. So, and we are open to discussion about with you guys, because it all would have to depend on your different jurisdictions, as well as your prior investment deals. So it's a case-by-case scenario that we would like to have that in-depth discussion with you guys. And once that time comes, one more thing about fast-track investment. I have mentioned this before, but this is different from the program investment. We have two tracks, and the fast-track is a ongoing investment process that would be done primarily by the ventures, and we will be contacting teams separately. And so this is it's an ongoing process that no one has to apply for it or anything. And we will reach out to you guys. Yeah, hope that kind of cleared things out. And I know we are about to go on our lunch break, but Sonny, could you maybe wrap up the floor for us?
Oh yeah, hi. Thank you so much for joining speakers and also participants. I just wanted to just go over once again like how this impact collective frame works. So, you know, we include like finance, we include impact, we include a team and culture, we could include a product. It seems like everything is not kind of related, but as you know, everything is related. And Impact Collective is built on top of the Impact Foundation, and we believe it's not one or the other. And no, we cannot, we don't have to give up business to make impact, or we don't have to give up impact to make business. It's all of the speakers are here to say that everything we do is things to do with the impact and business together. So those alignment is something that we would love to provide you to discover more and then go deep into it. And then team and culture, I mean, you guys are having like tremendous interest in team and culture, have a lots of questions for Josh. And this is telling you, you know, without team and culture, we cannot create a company. We cannot create a impactful journey of ourselves. So we just wanted to frame that once again. We're using this 4 factor in our program from the beginning till the end, actually from the screening process, impact and the team and culture and the business and the product. So this will be the 4 key things that we will mention again and again, and after, like throughout the next 10 weeks of the our acceleration and investment program. So I just wanted to close it with this kind of frame that we all having together, and that we are make sure that we are on the same page. So that's my last words, and thanks again for everyone joining today. And I will give my mic to the Steffi to end the morning session.
Woo! That was a great packed session. Thank you everyone for holding in there.